So you just got yourself a Mark 8 Golf R or GTI, and you're wondering what are the mods that you should be doing first. Well, I'm going to disappoint you a little bit and tell you to leave it alone because the car is actually awesome as it is. But since none of you are going to listen to that advice, here are the top 5 mods you should do to your Golf R or GTI first. Now, I've had a couple of issues with my Mark 8 that led to some dealership visits, but overall, I absolutely love this car. With that, why don't we treat the comments section as a sounding board for Volkswagen and let them know, did you have a Mark 8? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or maybe you have something else that you'd like to tell them. Right out of the gate, I don't actually consider this a mod, but I do think it is the very first thing you should be doing on your Mark 8, GTI, or Golf R, and that's add a hood strut. This car came with a prop rod that, it lives actually right down here on the headlight. One of those things that a lot of the community felt like VW cheaped out on instead of putting the strut like I have. This is such an easy mod. Anybody can install it. I installed this before I even drove the car off the lot, and it just gives you a little bit more better feeling with the hood. Not that you open the hood every day, but when you do, you can show off your sweet 034 Motorsports hood strut. Now for the actual mods, this is really in no particular order, but this first one that I'm gonna mention is something that I generally do really early in my car ownership, and that is a rear swaybar. So this is a 034 swaybar with adjustable end links. What's awesome about the swaybar is it will give you a sportier feel in turns, but you don't really sacrifice anything in normal day-to-day driving. If you do any other suspension mods, you're generally sacrificing some level of ride quality or ride height. My car is lowered. My car has some other suspension components that definitely add some NVH or just reduce ride height. It looks cool, but there is a sacrifice where I don't really feel like you get any of that with a rear swaybar. You can spend about 350 bucks. You can do it yourself. This one, really the only thing you have to do is drop the exhaust out of the way, and it really does improve the overall handling of the car. Highly recommend. And if you're feeling spicy, you can get an adjustable one like I have and make it even stiffer. Now, in addition to the bar itself, I have adjustable end links. The reason I have adjustable is because my car is lowered. If you don't lower your car, you don't need to do the adjustable ones, but it is a good idea to replace the factory ones because the factory ones are actually plastic. For stock height cars, you can get metal ones, or you can get the ones with spherical bearings, which is what I had in my Mark 7 before the dark times. Now, I love doing some coding, so of course, I'm gonna have some coding as some of the must-do mods. A couple of these you're gonna be able to do if you have VCDS, or honestly on Mark 8, even better, in OBD11. There are some security things that happen in the Mark 8 that VCDS has a really hard time working around. Plus, if you're gonna do any kind of DIY on pretty much Mark 5 and newer, you should have one of these 2 scan tools. It's gonna make your life boatloads easier. My first bit of coding I always do on these is turn the sound actor down to 0 so that you don't have a bunch of fake engine noises getting pumped into your car. It vibrates the car too. Now, if you want to find out what are some of the other really cool programming things you can do, swing over to VW Vortex or the Rostec Wiki, and you can probably find a whole bunch more stuff that I don't even have done, or look in the apps on OBD11 and you'll find some more stuff there. There's another bit of coding that you can do that really levels up this car, but you're gonna need some help. There's a website called ACM Technic. I'll be sure to link it up so you don't have to remember that, where Anthony can actually activate your matrix headlights. This allows individual lights in your headlight to turn on or turn off based on what's happening in front of it. This is awesome, and it should have been how the car came from the factory, but thanks to our prehistoric dinosaur level DOT laws for headlights, we have to have lame headlights in the US. That's changed, but it's gonna take a while for all the manufacturers to catch up. Another thing he can fix, which is not a huge deal, but I find it to be really annoying, and that's the car resetting the mode every time you cycle the key. So if I put this car in drift mode, drift, 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 oh, so much fun. When I shut the key off, watch what happens. The car resorts back to sport mode. In my 7.5, I leave it in comfort mode all the time. This one you can't do stuff like that, but Anthony can fix that. Now this one might come a little out of left field, especially if you saw my exhaust install video, But we're gonna put an exhaust on the list. I have this Miltech exhaust on my Mark 8, and I've had it on there for quite some time. I have also went through every single variation of Miltech exhaust available for the Mark 8, and this is what I have found to sound the best. It's the Mark 8 Race exhaust pipe with a resonated center section. This gives a good note, but it's not obnoxious or really drony while you're driving it on the highway. You also get to get rid of those ugly stock tips that just look like these weird ovals that are all thick and chunky. I also did keep the flaps on the outer pipes just like the factory has. Now I haven't dynoed this setup, but I would probably guess you're not gonna really get a whole bunch of horsepower. Keep in mind, VW did an awesome job setting this car up from the factory. So this is going to be a mod that gives you some aesthetic as well as some better exhaust notes. You might find this to be a little too loud. You might find this to be not loud enough because some of y'all like your exhaust loud. But out of all the options that they have, this is what I found that I think sounds the best. The next mod is really only for manual transmissions because if you got a DSG, you got the chicken nugget and you don't need to worry about this one. But that is a short shifter kit. I put the Holy Shift kit in from Shop DAP and that crisps up the shift feel as well as shortens it. You can see here how much shorter the shift is than it was. Now, in my opinion, the Golf R is actually way better suited as a DSG than it is as a manual. The GTI, however, manual wins hands down. And adding that short shifter really does improve what, in my opinion, is kind of a lacking shift feel on the car. Keep in mind, there hasn't been much manual transmission innovation since Mark IV. That is 4 generations and 20 years of no innovations. That means we're primed for some aftermarket add-ons to improve the factory feel. You can install the short shifter in like 25 or 30 minutes, do the adjustment on the shifter itself, and really change the whole dynamic of the way the car drives. I like this mod because it's something you're interacting with all the time. Unlike, say, the dynamic turn signals that I put in the power-fold mirrors, I don't ever see that, but we do get to experience our short shift shifty boy every single time we drive our car. In addition to the short shifter, adding a new shift knob is another really good mod that a lot of people do. I never changed mine because I'm waiting for a certain someone to finish designing their shift knob so that we can upgrade the knob in this car. This next mod is for those of you that are willing to take a little bit of risk, and that's going to be a tune. Now, I think this car with a tune is really how it should have came from the factory. When it came to the Mark 7, felt the same way. There's a little bit of difference though in the Mark 8 versus the Mark 7. With the Mark 8, I've been running a high torque stage 1 file for over a year on the stock clutch. If this were a Mark 7, we would have nuked the clutch already and had to replace that. So it seems that the 8 is actually holding the power much better than the 7 and 7.5 did. If you have a DSG though, you're gonna bump into some issues at least at the time of filming this video because the DSG is not fully unlocked yet. I feel like it's probably just a matter of time before that happens, but just as a heads up, right now, DSG tunes are not unlocked. However, on the manual side, or if you just wanted to do ECM, a tune is fantastic and it really, really wakes the car up. When I dynoed my Mark 8, here's the horsepower numbers that we were getting. And again, that's just on a stage 1 high torque file. You wanna go higher than that though, on a manual, you're probably in it for a performance clutch of some type. If you're on DSG, you have to really just sacrifice not getting a DSG tune. Now I get asked a lot, what's the best tune for a Mark 8 Golf R and GTI? What I'll tell you is if you are buying an off-the-shelf tune, the kind of tune you can click on a website, order the dongle, get it shipped to your house and tune your own car, they're all gonna be really similar. When you look at stage 1, that's almost always just software. When you move up to stage 2, now you're adding hardware. Intake, charge cooler, downpipe are typically the main components of a stage 2 modded, I guess, car. In my opinion, the big players, i.e. Unitronic, 034, APR, they're all gonna be really similar and you're probably gonna be happy with whichever one you go with. My Mark 8 is 034. My Mark 7.5 was IE and now is Unitronic and they've all been really, really good. So as long as you're sticking with one of the big boys, I think you're gonna be happy with it. Now there is an important note when it comes to tuning. Just like every modification, there is an inherent risk for failure. While these tunes, especially the off-the-shelf ones, are generally really safe, as soon as you tune the car and then take it to the dealer and they do a full scan on it, it flags your car for being modified. What does this mean? Maybe nothing. In fact, I just picked this car up for some warranty work and it's been tuned for quite some time. However, it's a pay-to-play situation. So if you tune your car and the dealership doesn't want to fix it, they might deny a warranty claim. It's not super common, but that is really something you need to be aware of and keep in mind. What a lot of people will do is just wait till their warranty's up and then they don't have to worry about it. Now, in the world of modifications, we have just scratched the surface. So what I want to do is point out the rest of the mods that I have on this car, and maybe you can use that as a guide to do something similar. Starting in the trunk, I actually don't have it in here because this is all still apart from when we did air ride on the yellow car. Get a spare tire. I don't think it fits over the front brakes, but boy oh boy, it'll fit over the rears, and it's better than being left stranded. The kit from the Mark 7 fits about 95%. You will have to trim out the tow hook cover. Otherwise, the kit that Paul sells, all that stuff will work in the Mark 8. I also have the bumper dillo that I installed magnificently, I might say. And really, I actually think it looks super cool on the back, way better than the chrome ones from the last generation. I also have a brake upgrade. I'm still running factory pads, but I have 355mm rotors and a new caliper carrier bracket in the back. Also running some spacers in the back. This is the flush kit from shoptap.com and Racing Line wheels. These are not the right wheels, but they're not ugly on this car. I also have a front brake upgrade. These are 375mm two-piece rotors, factory pads just like in the back. Not really a mod, but definitely an early thing I did was put these badge skin stickers over these obnoxiously large orange reflectors and deleted that little fender extension flappy dealy that lived right here. And of course, we can't forget one of my absolute favorite mods on any car I have, power folding mirrors. The ultimate parking lot flex. Continuing on our modification trolley, up underneath the car, I have the roll center and camber correcting ball joints from 034 Motorsport. It's on H&R lowering springs and the camster plates for the top hats from 034. I have a 034 front sway bar with adjustable end links and a dog bone and bushing insert also from 034. This is a great upgrade, DSG or manual. This one actually came really close to making the main list. There's two different versions of this, so if you order one, make sure you get the right one. We have the subframe dead set kit that keeps the subframe in place. Woggly subframes were a really bad problem on especially Mark 5s. We have the tunnel brace from 034 Motorsport. We have the trailing arms with spherical bearings. We also put these in the Mark 7 when we did all those mods. Adjustable upper control arms here. And of course, we already talked about the exhaust as well as the rear sway bar. Now, if you were listening very closely, you would have picked up that I said 034 Motorsport maybe 1,000 times. This car was actually a prototyping car for 034 Motorsports. I shipped it to California. They did a bunch of testing on Mark 7 stuff, redesigned some stuff specifically for Mark 8, and then they took it to SEMA and had it at their booth at SEMA, which is really awesome and one of those like really cool moments in the humble mechanic universe. We've probably just scratched the surface on all the really cool mods that you can do to a Mark 8, but hopefully this video will help get you going. Now, what's your favorite Mark 8 mod? Drop that in the comments, and also swing over and watch my Mark 7 mod video because a lot of that stuff you can do to this car as well. With that, I'm out. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you again next time, and rev up your engines.